Welcome, everybody, to the Aliveness Habit, refreshing conversations with everyday masters of aliveness. And this conversation series is just an exploration of aliveness and how we can feel more alive in our everyday lives. And it's just an exploration of the full rapture of aliveness. And today I have an amazing guest with me. Her name is Sonia Turingia. And Sonia and I have known each other for a little while. We do some work together. And Sonia is just an amazing human being. And I'm so excited to share her out with the world because I think there's a lot of goodness, a lot of nuggets, a lot of gold that she is going to share with us today. So I'm really excited. Sonia is a fitness enthusiast, a certified nutritionist, and a wannabe chef. And she was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer in April of 2023. And she was told that she had 6 to 8 months to live. And now 18 plus months later, here she is. And she is thriving while living with disease and focusing on building a life that she can be passionate about. I just love that, Sonia. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. And what a build-up, no pressure.
That's what I do. That's what I
do.
Yep. So I love that you're here, and I always kick off my conversations with this question: what does the word aliveness mean to you?
That's been quite the exploration over the past 18 plus months because, and I always like to do a comparison, but before cancer came, I had no idea what aliveness meant because I didn't have a life, right? I just worked all the time. I had no relationships outside of work. So that means that, the relationships that I did have were very limited and focused and of course, emotional content. Everything was super structured. I calendared everything. I've tracked all my food, just trying to sustain that constant workload. And now post-COVID, post-cancer's been an honest to God gift. But post-cancer, I've learned to let go of chasing money without passion, to let go of structuring everything, just to flow a little bit more easy, create a little bit more space around myself and focus on the things that I truly want to focus on as I'm rebuilding my body and reclaiming my health.
I'm sensing a very deep theme here. Wow. Okay. So letting go. Cancer has an experience of letting go is what I'm hearing.
Oh, a lot of it. Yeah. There was a lot of belief systems that had to go. There was a lot of actions and structures that needed to leave, a lot of guilt and anger, a lot of anger that needed to go. That was my go-to emotion, was angry. But also people. Like I didn't have that support community. I didn't have any support system around me when I was diagnosed. And I told everybody, even people I hadn't spoken to in months, everybody, this is my diagnosis. I'm going to need help. This is my journey. If you can't take it at any time, you are free to leave. Without guilt or judgment, you can go. But if you can be part of this journey, I would love you to, because I knew I was going to need support. I was an emergency case. I was extensive lung cancer. So I had multiple tumors, but the main one that was life-threatening was I had a tumor in my windpipe and it cut off 80% of my air. So I needed to have treatment right away. And I knew that, we all know cancer treatment's not fun. It's not good for you, like in the overall sense of things. And I knew I was going to need that support system, and I didn't have it. So I consciously went out to build it. But I have to tell you, Alex, I was so surprised with how much support I got
Mm.
and how much I loved it. That feeling supported part of what aliveness means to me at this point. Now that I know what it's like, I'm not going back to going without it. And it's amazing to be able to depend on other people,
Yeah.
especially for something so dramatic. Like there was during the third round of chemo, I had some really bad side effects. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't be weight bearing. Another time, I ended up getting nerve damage in my hands for many months. I couldn't cook for myself. I couldn't drive, couldn't hold anything. So there was many times that I had to fully rely on other people to take care of me, bathe me, shop for me, do everything for me, which I wasn't expecting in the beginning. Of course, you never expect that. But having that connection, having that feeling of supportedness, having that sense of community around you changed everything for me.
Mm. And what is it that you had to let go of in order to allow the receiving of that support?
I think we all struggle. It's terrible to say, but we all struggle with being good enough. But I didn't trust others to take care of me because nobody ever had.
Mm.
I'd always been on my own and had to take care of everybody else who came along. There was never a place for Sonia to rest her head, you know? And now there was one of the most pivotal times after the third round. It was what, 21 days of side effects that were just so severe I couldn't stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of things, people structured, like Wednesday, my next door neighbor would come over with watermelon because it was watermelon Wednesdays, because I would usually have my treatments on Tuesdays. So by Wednesday, I was very inflamed. And that would help me cool down. And I couldn't cut watermelon. I had no strength left, right? So she would come in, that would be our thing. We would have watermelon. She would check in on me and we would just talk about our weeks. And it was so nice, A, to be taken care of, but B, to hear about somebody else's day, to take me away mentally from what I was dealing with. But Thursdays, I had a friend of mine would make soup. She would make homemade soup for me every week. And it was always delicious, like nutritious bone broth, deep, gorgeous chicken noodle soup kind of thing. And she came over and I dragged my poor little butt out to the couch and I just flopped down. And as soon as I saw her, I just burst into tears and I just could not stop. And I hadn't cried since I had been diagnosed.
Mm.
And so much had happened until that point. And it was just like, for some reason, there was a buildup at that moment. And she just came over and picked me up and held me to her chest. She didn't say anything. She didn't ask me if she could. She just did.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've experienced anything like that since I was a child. You know, being picked up by my mother.
I understand
My phone's deciding that I'm talking to it.
that.
But that was like having to let go of all the angst of trying to control the journey.
Mm.
And trying to downplay the effects and trying to be the strong one and just to be able to be held and to cry it out. And I just did an ugly cry. There was snot everywhere, but she didn't move. She just kept holding me. And anger. Like I never looked at cancer as the evil. It's not the bad guy. We're not fighting cancer. We're not a warrior. This is a journey. And to me, cancer is a cosmic tap on the shoulder to say, hey, sweetie, how you're living is killing you. Not just hurting you, it's killing you. And I had to ask myself, well, do I want to live? Because sometimes you don't. For whatever reason, you can have had a really good life and that's all you want to do is just enjoy the time you have left. Or you've had a crappy life and you're just tired of trying. And you just want to go out on your own, the way that you want to go out. And all of those are fine. There's no judgment in that. But I had to look at it like, I don't have a support system. I don't have relationships with my family that I really enjoy. I don't have a partner or someone to take care of me if I get sick. Um, I don't have a job I like. I don't have those normal things
Yeah.
that somebody would, like, oh, I want to see my grandson graduate high school, or nothing big like that. It was just, do you want to live?
Hmm. So what does it mean to you now to live?
It's so much different than what I thought. I used to think, you had to achieve the best that you could and visit as much as you could. And it was all things that were outside of you. It was nothing to do with inside.
Right.
Um, but when I decided, yes, I want to live, well, how do I want this life to be? It was all about, what do I want to feel?
Hmm.
What do I want to experience
Hmm.
in those feelings? Love, laughter, joy. I hadn't had those for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I want more of that.
Yeah.
What about intimacy? What about
Yeah.
having an actual relationship with someone, male or female, friends or lovers, where you're actually getting to be a friend to that person and they're a friend to you?
Mhm.
What does that actually truly look like? I never really had that.
Mm.
So
Beautiful.
everything changed. Everything
Yeah.
changed.
And how do you source that new experience of joy and love and laughter? How do you nurture that and cultivate that?
It's a different challenge when you're living with disease, for sure.
Hmm.
Because, and we've talked about this many times in our conversations, that you get lambasted with things every time. There's always something new. And like, I would have somebody that would check in with me once a month. She'd be like, oh my God, so much has happened. Things happen quick in my world. Like, because that's what it happens with disease. You're constantly up for a challenge. For me, it was just continuing to be a student of the body. I've always been a student of the body.
Hmm.
And objective experimentation.
Hmm.
Take the emotion out of it. Try something. Test it.
Hmm.
Like, I had read a lot, as an example, I had read a lot, I read so many cancer books, but I read a lot that fasting for a certain amount of time before and after your chemo infusion was quite helpful. And I'm a big fan of fasting. So I'm like, we're going to try it. And we just tracked it. How does that look like after round one? Well, that went pretty well. How does that look like after round two? That went pretty well.
Mm.
And just keeping that objectivity takes the emotion out of it, so you don't get a chance to play victim.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also hear a real practice of staying present, because you are in essence always responding to the information that's in front of you versus living in the past or living in the present.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I love that you share that, because I think what it points to is just training a deep presence. Um, does
Yeah,
that resonate?
100%.
Mm.
Because like you said, you can't live in the past because the past is gone. I did a wonderful exercise after I was diagnosed and after deciding I wanted to live. I understood that the person that created cancer, the version of Sonia that created cancer, is not the version of Sonia that's going to heal cancer. So I took all my old journals and burned them. It took me days because,
Wow.
one, I couldn't stand the smoke near me, even though I was outside. But I had an old flower pot on the balcony and I burned all my journals in there. And a bit of a tangent, but it's such a cool story.
Mhm.
During the journey, last August, after my third round, I had, like I said, a really bad round. I had been given extra time to heal up to go in for the fourth and final round, because as being palliative and terminal, they only gave me 4 rounds of chemotherapy because they're not expecting me to heal or live. So we had a really warm summer that year, and there was a second birthing season for a lot of things like cats and birds. And bird family decided to nest in that pot while I was at my 4th round of chemo. I came home and there's like eggs in my pot. I'm like, okay, I guess we're having a family, and we're just going to let life live. And
Oh.
people in the building were like, you can't allow that. You got to get rid of them. Just throw the eggs out. I'm not doing that. Life chose to visit me. I'm going to watch it grow.
Mm.
And I couldn't move for very long after chemo anyway. So it was great joy to watch who I named Little Augusta be born, because he was born in August. And teach them how to share my balcony because I'm going outside because I need my sunlight. But I thought for me that was such a symbol of a phoenix rising from the ashes. It was so cool.
Hmm.
And that was like I knew I was doing well, but that was a huge sign for me that things are just going to get better.
Yeah.
That we're okay.
Wow. That's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I actually haven't heard that story, so that's nice for me to hear that. Yeah, it's beautiful. Playfulness, I know, is also another big aspect of your experience, particularly something that you and I have been talking a lot about and exploring a lot. And I love your playful spirit. And I just think I just can't help but wonder the the power of play, the power of a playful mindset and a playful spirit when things go wrong, and what your thoughts are around that. How important is that playful spirit?
I've given some thought about this, and I honestly think it's as important as water,
Mm.
because you need that to get through anything, like whether you have disease or not, you need that playful spirit. And
Mhm.
finding what those things are. I had to work from a very young age. I didn't really get a lot of chance to play. So when I have opportunity to play and something comes up that I can't, it used to really piss me off. And I had to learn to let go of that anger, and structure things a little bit differently. But finding out what I liked to play with. I mean, in my 50s, and I didn't really know
Yeah.
what I liked to do and just exploring that. So again, cancer gave me the opportunity to explore that, and seeing what I liked, and then seeing how I can put those into play without self-judging, without that stupid little voice in your head saying, don't do that, you sound stupid. Like, one of the things I love to do is sing, apparently, but I can't sing. Like, I have no voice. And for breath work, I would get on my little treadmill and walk as fast as I can and sing at the top of my lungs. My poor neighbors, but I would do it. And even if somebody was here, like I had to have an assistant, a personal support worker here for many months. Even if she was here, I would sing. And it took me a while to be able to let go of the judgment and be able to sing with somebody else in the house, and be, full volume, or be full volume with the windows open so people could hear me. And now it's ridiculous, but I'm singing everywhere. I can have the windows down in the car. I can be at a stoplight singing at full volume.
Wow.
People look at me strange, but too bad. I'm living in my joy right now. I'm
Mm.
sorry if that impacts you in a negative way.
Hmm.
Um, but playfulness is huge. Even just having fun in the chemo unit.
Hmm.
Um, you never get the same nurses or the same people. So you don't get to build up a relationship with any of the medical staff that you're dealing with throughout your journey. And there's anxiousness involved in going in for chemo anyway, because it's going to suck afterwards, and you never know what side effects you're going to get that time. But it also just getting the needle in the arm can really suck. And there was always anxiousness about which nurse am I going to get? Is she going to be good with a needle? Because you would think that all of them are, but not so much. And some people are just better than others. So there was always anxiousness about that. So I would have to center and just sing in the car before going into treatment, and just being still a lot and just being quiet, listening to what's going on inside and addressing it. Let it come through you, and then say, okay, that's enough. We're going to go in. We're going to go say thank you to chemotherapy for coming into us, and we're going to ask it to leave without any damage. That's what I did. Everyone, I'd be sitting there talking to my chemo bag very quietly, but thank you for coming into my body. You are here to heal this. You're going to attack this. You're going to leave without doing any damage. Thank you very much. And trying to be in that playful, grateful heart space the entire time.
Yeah. What a gift that you give yourself when you're able to meet cancer or anything. Cancer can be, and it could be anything that let's call it the unwanted.
Yes, that's good. I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
The unwanted. Anything that's unwanted comes into your space. And what a wonderful way to meet that.
Thank you.
With lightheartedness and playfulness and just a sort of friendliness, if you will. And I'm just, I'm wondering, this isn't necessarily the normal way that we move through life, right? I would say it's the anomaly, unfortunately, but that's true.
I've always been an odd duck. That's okay.
Yeah, no, an odd duck. No, but certainly just a little off the beaten path in terms of how you choose to show up. And I just wonder what your thoughts are around that, and how would, if somebody's listening right now and is feeling that weight and that darkness and that feeling of like life is being done to me and I just can't get out from underneath this wave and it just keeps crashing and I don't know what to do. What are some very practical steps that you can take in order to start turning that tide and starting to get into a space that you're describing to us today?
I have a list of emotions, starting with love at the highest and anger and fear down at the bottom. And I do two things. I recognize where I am on the list and what's the next step above it. So if I'm in anger, the next step would be frustration. And then it would be, agitated, and all the way up to calm, happy, joyful, loveful. So if I'm in anger, I need to interrupt it because it's a pattern. We're used to doing this, and we can spiral very easily. We can get on that treadmill of, oh, woe is me. Oh, life is so hard. Oh, why is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. Interrupt it, and that physicality works great. Even when you can't move very well, physicality works great. You can do something. My mom used music to change her mood. I like movement because I believe motion changes emotion. It affects emotion. One of the things I did and still do is, if it's possible, have a bath.
Yeah.
Have a nice Epsom salt bath. And the thoughts you start with when you put your foot in the bath are not the thoughts you leave with when you get out. It will raise you up that list. And even if it only brings you up to frustration, even if it only brings you up one step, that's still an improvement. And look at it as an improvement. There's probably still more work to do. There's always work to do. There's never a lack of work. But it's an improvement. And being that objective observer, saying, oh, look, I did that and I went up a step. Hey, holy shit, that worked. Like whatever phrase turns your boat. acknowledge that it worked. And then look at, and I'm going to borrow your phrase, but look at things with more of a curious eye. If that worked, what do I need to go? What do I need to do to get from frustration to agitated?
Yeah.
And you just keep building yourself up. And that could take days. Like it's not like it's going to be a super quick fix for someone who's really in the dumps, who has never done this before. Sometimes going from anger to frustration is a big reach. But you got to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing's going to change if you don't do the work.
Yeah. Agreed. And I do feel that we get caught in this wishing cycle of wishing things to be different than what they are in the moment. And
True.
we get caught in that space of suffering where we're constantly wishing for it not to be. And our energy goes into the resisting and the repelling of what's in front of us. And, you know, I really like what you're saying because it points to this radical being with, and in a way that's not wishing it in any way. It's just a meeting, and then you just acknowledge the small steps and the small improvements, the increments that are happening moment by moment, and it kind of takes you out of this bigger feeling of like, oh, despair.
Yes.
Like it's just so big and so much.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It really does.
I really love that idea. And I'm curious as well about food and nutrition because you are a certified nutritionist. And I know that food and nutrition has played a massive role in your journey. And I'm just curious, you know, what is important about food in the journey that you've had, and how does that sustain your aliveness?
That's a good question. I fully believe, even before cancer, I fully believe that the body was designed to heal itself. And we all have our gifts from parents and grandparents in our DNA. And some of those gifts are strengths, and some of those gifts are kryptonite. And we need to know what those are because we need to get the best out of our biology, no matter what our circumstance. So looking at cancer, that was a huge undertaking. Read so many books, of course. Everyone's got a diet for everything, right? But I knew there's some basic stuff that you're going to need to know. Treatment, medication of any kind, but specifically chemotherapy treatment is very inflammatory. It's poison.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of pharmaceutical drugs. So it was a big leap for me to say yes to chemotherapy. So I would use baking soda in everything because it automatically alkalizes. I would put it in my baking water. I would drink it. I would put it in my nebulizer and breathe it. I would get it into me as much as I could. So water, alkalinity, so that also means green vegetables. I removed all grains, all carbohydrates. Well, not all carbohydrates, because I eat vegetables and those are carbohydrates. No sugar, because sugar feeds cancer. And grains are sugar too. No alcohol, of course, because that's just liquid sugar. And no meat, no dairy. Because there are some pathways of meat and dairy metabolism that can affect the growth of some cancers. So basically just went vegetarian, had a little bit of fruit, had my watermelon Wednesdays. But mostly it was just vegetables. And I would juice it to get it into me because chemo wrecks your stomach. You can't digest very well. So liquid nutrition is going to be best, easiest way. You know that you need to get, not just for the therapies, but to help your body move forward, to support it, You need as much nutrients as you can get. You need those building blocks. Now, you're not building anything per se, but just the whole idea of any disease, whether it's diabetes or cancer or heart disease or atherosclerosis, anything that you're dealing with, there's an element of fight or flight. The nervous system is agitated, thinking about whether or not you're going to die. That's a huge fight or flight agitation, right? That's a stressor. And you want to activate the parasympathetic as much as possible, the rest and digest kind of mode, because in that area, that's when your body cleans house. And we wanted the drugs to kill the disease, and we wanted the diet to clean it up and get it out. So lots of water, lots of vegetables. I did juicing. I did a lot of liver support. I did castor oil packs. I did nebulizers. I did red pepper packs. There's a ton to do. But first, if I was to start with anybody, if I was to give anybody some advice on where to start, recognize you're in fight or flight, get yourself to calm down. And use food to do that. You can only drink so much water. And I'm sure you've had this. You've got flowers in your garden. You ever had a flower pot that you didn't water for whatever reason? You went away on vacation or whatever, but it's all dried out now. And you got to put it in the bathtub and keep dosing it with water because the water runs right out. An inflamed, sick body will do the same. The cells can't absorb anything because they're already inflamed and agitated. I'm a big fan of eating my water. You drink your water, yeah, but you also have cucumbers, celery, vegetables that have high water content in them because you want to flood your body with the thing that gives it life. We're 80% water. So make sure that we have enough to do that. So high water content, alkalinity, using baking soda, boron, green vegetables, herbs. Herbs are fantastic. I eat a ton of parsley. I still do. I put in my juices too, but I still do. But really making sure that you've got the nervous system calmed down enough to deal with other things, and not just living in that fight or flight, because that's not going to do anybody any good.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. You have been just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, and what a joy to have you here. Thank you so much. We have to wrap up, but I do want to just ask you one last question. If there was something that you could leave people with, or that you'd like people to know about the experience of aliveness, what would that be?
Pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you what it needs. And that will lead you to a portion of aliveness. It's a good place to start, nothing else.
Yeah, here. Quiet, girlfriend. I love it. That is very poignant, and it's very true. It's very true. And we often neglect this vessel and this beautiful.
We do.
Yeah, we do. We overlook it. And
I love the analogy of we are only given one body. We don't take care of it, right? So if I told you when you were 16, if I pulled you aside and said, here's a car. This is the only car you're ever going to get for the rest of your life. There will be no other cars. We'd check it in for regular maintenance. We'd be getting those oil changes. And if that check engine light went on, we would take it to a mechanic. And yet our body gives us signals all the time that things are out of whack. And when the check engine light comes on, we don't pay attention to it.
Agreed.
And we need to.
Thank you for bringing attention to that today and reminding us that everything that we are and that we have and that we can resource from is here. It's all here.
Yeah,
and it's
all
free.
here.
It's free. It costs nothing. It is the only last thing
Yes,
that is
I love that. I love that. I might steal that. That's awesome.
Free. Yeah. So thank you, Sonia. You are an absolute gem, and thank you for being here. What a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Great. It's been fun for me too. Thank you.